You know the Magna culture, right? Nobody works for me. You people work with me. I'm working for you. The history of mankind has always been dominated by the golden rule. Here's the gold makes the rule. But I don't want to be dominated by anyone. If I feel that strong, I should not be able to dominate somebody either.
Hello there, Richard Dolan here with another great session, a conversation with our very own Frank Stronach. As you know, the founder, the mind, and quite frankly, the genius behind all things entrepreneurially, well, successful. I'm really proud to be having a conversation with you right now about the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship. Good morning, Frank. Always good to be here with you.
It's great to see you again.
And I love that you always have readily available for us coconut water. So for anyone watching what it is that we drink, because we get people writing us all the time, what's in the glass?
This is organic stuff, right?
Organic stuff.
Anytime you consume or drink organic stuff, it's good for you.
And listen, truth be told, ever since we began to work together again, I've been feeling much lighter on my toes because it's the organic way. So I'm grateful for your
organic way.
It's the organic way. Frank, we have so much to cover.
By chemicals.
That's right. We're against chemicals. For all our friends watching from around the world, you have lots of fans. You've got lots of followers. You've got many faithful who've been following your journey, your story since the 50s of having really, as they would call, going from rags to riches. I hate to say it that way, but that's how people claim it to be. With only $200 in your pocket, and you've amounted to something of an extraordinary level. A billionaire many times over, an employer to over 185,000 people worldwide, having opened factories in nearly every single country on the planet. I mean, you're not just Frank Stronach, you're the Magna man. And so when we see you having inspired the launch of the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, I have to tell you as a student and a fan, I was so elated to hear that because everyone needs a role model, Frank. Wouldn't you agree?
It's helpful, right? It's helpful to pick a bank on somebody which has experiences or did things, and but there's always room to even improve it.
I love that. And on that note, we have much to get to. As you know, we've had these regular conversations talking about the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, which is a membership-driven community for those who are just getting started in business, are well on their way in which to stabilize or scale, or even those who are looking at what's next for them at the success levels that they've got. And looking at you as a role model, it's not just a role model to understand how to start and build a business, like do the business, it's also how to think like a business owner. And that's one of the things I get to benefit from. I get to sit with you on a regular basis and see that Frank Stronach's view of things matter. So where we are today, Frank, as you know, it's not any secret, we're currently filming this at a time of the Trump presidency. And as we know, there's been this thing called the Trump tariff wars for some time. Since he took office, waging tariff wars across the world, in fact, and Canada being the largest trading partnership in the world, as you know firsthand, it's official today that he's now registered a 35% tariff on all Canadian goods in his country. With that said, we also see that GDP's flat. And so with all of this news, Frank, with all of this uncertainty, with your mind fully intact, as I know it sharply is, what are our friends, business owners, to think of all this? What does Frank Stronach make this mean? Be frank with me, Frank. What do you think?
It's the trading laws or arrangements have always been very complex. Basically, it should mean that countries have the right to negotiate separately with company to come to what I would call a fair deal. Is it good for both sides, right? Okay. And so if that would be done, I think I don't see that a blanket arrangement is great for anyone, right? But you have it's a give and take, right? Where some countries have a lot of raw materials, are blessed by nature, that have a lot of exotic fruits, or like coconuts, right? Coconut water, right? So it's a give and it's what it should boil down to. What does it mean to its people, right? What does it mean to jobs, right? What does it mean to? Is it fair, right? Okay. So I think this is not just to have a blanket thing. This is not the greatest way to do things.
Well, and that's a great perspective. It doesn't sound like it's a fair way to treat your biggest trading partner. We might agree with that, and I know that all of our followers and those who are proudly Canadian are protesting and unified in that stance. But for a business owner that's got to make plans, Frank, put yourself in their shoes, but with the Frank Stronach mind. When people are looking at hiring more staff, readying for the upcoming holiday season, if it were, investing in their own infrastructure, perhaps their own expansion. Do you see the news transpiring with the trade wars and with this tariff now in place as a positive thing or a negative thing? Or is it a neutral thing? How would you proceed with what's transpiring as a businessman?
I think it's unfortunate that it happened the way it happened. And we got to see, though, that Canada and the United States are really the custodian of a free society. So we got to really, we got to work together, right? Okay. So, and I hope it's not delayed. There's maybe might a few months go by, but I hope that we keep thinking, look, we got to make changes, right? And they got to be fair.
Well, I mean, and this is important for everyone to hear. After all, we're talking on behalf of our Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship. We are a great stand for mentorship, for coaching, surrounding yourself by good, positive thinking people and getting a role model like yourself to not just build a business, but build a very impactful business. But Frank, when you look at the history books, you ran one of the world's largest businesses through some pretty troubled times. I mean, it was the 80s that brought us the Chernobyl disaster, the meltdown, the nuclear reactor meltdowns out of Russia. And you had to endure that time as a businessman of one of the world's largest businesses. You had to endure Desert Storm and the second coming of what transpired in the Middle East with the US invasion of that area. I mean, you've had your share of geopolitical events that must have rocked your mind as a business owner. If you would agree, what were some of the things you had to think on, consider, or even ponder during those times?
If you can measure the living standards very easily in a country which makes more and more products, okay, then that means there's less imports, okay? So the question is, can you balance out? Every country wants to export, right? Okay, and all the countries try to have less imports, because basically means a country which imports more and more and exports less and less, the living standards will deteriorate enormously. And that's what happened to Canada, right? Because when you look back with the last 30, 40 years, anytime when there was a new building built, it was not a factory, it was a warehouse. So we became a nation of warehouse operators. And it's absolutely necessary to go back where we make things, right? And the Stronach Academy is based upon making things, right?
I love that.
Okay, but on the other hand, it's individual countries could arrange trade deals which are beneficial on both sides, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So we that's what happened in the previous days, right? So you can't, but I somehow I can feel for Donald Trump, right? Because basically he's a hardcore American, where he said, look, America did all the work for the rest of the world, right? They supplied weapons, etc., in order to keep. The more weapons you have, the more assured you could have that you could assure to have peace, right? So the Americans produced a lot of weapons, and luckily not to start a war, right? But America basically did that to prevent the war. And but on the other hand, America looked upon it's not quite right what they did to Canada, because first of all we are neighbors, right? And I want to basically say, look, Canada and the United States will exist long after Donald Trump is gone. Or I hope that he will realize, I hope that he will be changing things here. Because basically he's a practical guy, and I met him many times, and hopefully I could persuade, well, there's a better way of doing things.
I know. You know, here's what I took from all that you've responded to, if I were to rewind it a little bit, is that it sounds to me that regardless of what's happening in the world, even geopolitically, Magna built its parts. It was just nose down, head down, just keep producing a great product. Don't let what's happening outside your world impact your inner world. It sounds to me that, as you went on to respond to my question, what it sounds to me is that when you are undisturbed as a business owner and you just keep producing a great product, that's all that should be your focus. So it feels to me, Frank, that it didn't matter to you what's going on in the external circumstances. You watched the news, but you didn't let it dictate your business. Would that be a fair statement?
Well, that's a fair statement, because basically if you have a business, you got to think about it. How could your business be affected?
Right.
What you have to do, you know, when you make big investments, and that's absolute next year, right? So you got to take a look down the road. You know, I think I looked down the road 30, 40, 50 years ago, right? Okay, so the interesting thing was, sometimes I went I had, let's say, dinner or lunch with a Japanese businessman, and said, gee, they say, Frank, we feel sorry for you, right? Because the shareholders they demand profits next week or the week after, right? We in Japan, we plan a few years ahead, right? And we got the Japanese did great, right? So they did a lot of things right.
And I love that. It's quite a smart way to build and project the business development needs of a company, and to plan in terms of years, not just in terms of profits. What's amazing too, though, what I heard you say, and I love that we're changing gears a little bit, is that you're really a champion for realizing or recreating Canada's great economic sovereignty. And one little side story, I was meeting a colleague of ours, and he insisted we had a drink, a cocktail. It was cocktail hour. So I had a gin and tonic. I don't really drink gin. But the server asked, well, what kind of gin would you like? And I said, well, I wouldn't mind a Canadian-made gin. And the gentleman who's sitting across from me said, you know, good for you. And I said, well, why would you say that? He goes, well, we need to support our Canadian spirit makers. And he went on to tell me a story about not one, but two of his neighbors, one in the beer distilling business and one in the whiskey making business. And he said, because of what's gone on south of our border, what's happened is that there's been an influx of dollars and attention and retail profits coming back into Canada because we're focusing within our country. Frank, you've been saying this for a long time.
Well, it's good that you ordered some Canadian spirit. It's
Right.
good.
It's good
for the spirit of Canada.
Now you're playing with me, but those are good words.
No.
But Frank,
because
you've been saying
always,
this.
it really comes through, right? We gotta make things, right? We gotta, and you can always predict the economy, right? Let's take the farmers, right? Farmers can't produce any products or produce unless they got seeds. Okay, so they got to make sure that they can plant seeds to produce something, right?
That's right.
And the country, if you want to make things, you need skilled labor. Without skilled labor, you can't make things. So we got to understand that. It's only when you make products, right, that you could have a high living standards. If you import everything here, it just doesn't work, right? And trade deals should be to balance out, because it'd be great that we have a balanced world, right? We're so far away from it, right? So balance is, for me, the word balance is maybe the most important word, right? Because without balance, things don't work.
No, and I love that.
The laws of nature are much stronger than any man-made law.
And I love that. And right now, I feel like what Canadians are doing is finding their own footing, finding their own balance, their own center. And as you said earlier on, a country that depends upon less imports, yeah, and actually can rely upon their exports. This whole maneuver by the Trump administration has really set Canada up to focus within, doing away with the interprovincial trade laws that prohibit the West from trading with the East. And I mean Eastern Canada, not Eastern Europe or Eastern world. It's amazing to see that there seems to be a restoration of economic balance being brought back into Canada. Do you sense that, Frank?
Well, basically, I see it as a wake-up call. Huh? A wake-up call. Gee, we gotta depend just on imports, right? Okay, so it's a wake-up call, and the wake-up call would be that we need skilled labor. Okay, we gone away from that. Huh? Again, I'm stressing again. Anytime there's a new building going up now, it's not a factory where we make things. It's another warehouse. Okay, so Canada became a nation of warehouse operators. So this might be a wake-up call, and I hope the focus should be on skilled labor, right? We gotta focus, because without skilled labor, we can't make things.
Well, this brings us back to what might sound like a shameless plug for the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, but this is precisely why the SAFE, is what we've come to call it, exists.
That was back in my mind, that was the driving point, right? Where we SAFE, the Stronach Academy, looks at things in a practical way. What do you have to do to make X, right? Okay. So I hope we can make a great contribution. I know we will, but we need skilled labor. We gotta make things.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean that goes to show for the world of services, products, and the least of it.
And I feel very strong about the Stronach Academy. Perhaps I got so enthusiastic about it that, and sometimes, you sit back a bit and say, did you do the right thing? And sometimes, you're trying to do the right thing, but sometimes you got to modify a few things. Yeah, basically, I think we have a great program. I think it'd be of great service, a great help to would-be entrepreneur and small businesses. So basically we're saying, look, we are self-assured that we have a great program where we say, look, you don't have to pay the money up right away. If you want to be part of it, participate for 3 months, right? So basically we say, look, observe it. And if we think we can be of great help, especially because everything we do is based on practical experiences, we can be of great help. You get in the 3 months that you have, that you can assess the academy. Is it worthwhile? I think we'll give you a lot of information, and where you say, gee, I really want to be part of it.
And I love that. I love that at the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, I've always said that your net worth is your network. Proximity is power. You've got to watch who you're in the association of, the conversations you're a part of, because that's what we have at the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship. It's a community of a very focused conversation on what it'll take to create a real great Canadian business, and one that you can be proud of. One that creates for oneself their own economic sovereignty, as you would call being financially free, but at the same time helping Canada be financially free yet again. So I love that at the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, you've offered a 3-month test drive. No obligation, there's no cost. You can test drive belonging to our club, if it were, our community, if I may. The conversation is what it's called, so that you could be in the proximity of a great person. You could be in the proximity of a great mentor, a great friend, like Frank Stronach. And I have to be honest, Frank, it's not every day people get the opportunity of being in association to, let alone belonging to a community with a person of your stature, with your history. It's just unheard of.
I've been blessed with a great mind and good health, and I've always said,
And good
it
hair.
doesn't matter
Good-
how.
You got good hair. Don't leave that one
Because
out.
if your thinking is right, then
Yeah.
your hair will grow.
If your thinking is right, your hair will grow.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put my thinking
Okay.
cap on.
But
today.
anyway, it doesn't matter how smart you are. If the stars are not aligned, things won't work.
Mm.
And it's been such a great country. And the message I want to get across is we gotta start making things, and we gotta share the profits, right? Because all politicians, all business people agree if the economy doesn't work, nothing else will work. If the economy doesn't work, we cannot feed the hungry, we cannot look after the most fragile people, the elderly, the sick, and the handicapped. But we do not talk what drives the economy. The economy is driven by 3 forces: smart managers, hardworking employees, and investors. The message I want to get across loud and clear is, without employees, we can't make a profit. Okay, so it's the economy is the most important subject. And the Stronach Academy, this is what we will bring forward. It's the economy, the economy, the economy. We got to make things. Okay, so I'm looking forward to interface with our young entrepreneurs and small business that they can build large business.
I love
which
it.
will lead to large businesses.
No, I love it. I mean, for anyone that's watching you in these interviews from time to time, these conversations over a period of weeks or months, is that if you've heard what Frank just said and it sounds familiar, it should, because this is Frank Stronach's living philosophy. Everything about making everything work again is all a function of focusing on the economy. What I also want to make sure I underline, Frank, because it's very important for people to hear this, is that the reason why the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship was launched under the leadership of myself and Ivana and Cynthia and Stephen and the rest of the team is largely not just to teach people the principles of what made your life so great, but it's the same principles of what will make your legacy unforgettable. To be able to champion the same mindset, the same behaviors, the same approach to really making things work again, which is really what you're always about. Every time you walk into your restaurant, I watch you. Every time you walk into one of your farms, I see you. You're always looking to see how you can make something better. Don't you agree?
Well, I think that's what life is all about, right? Can you improve your life, right? And so it's always that your mind's got to be open, that you can make things better at a lower price. But go back again. Unfortunately, we'll enter now a great recession, you know, and so we gotta be prepared. Can we soften that depression, right? And we should also be aware that small business has always been the backbone of the country, right? And we tied up small business with so much red tape that they can't move, right? So my appeal to small businesses is you gotta band together. You hold the future of Canada in your hands, right? You have kids, you love your kids, right? If the economy doesn't work, there's no future for your kids. So you gotta get together. You gotta band together, because you would have a great political force. Politics does not work, right? We've done the things over and over and over. Politics leads to more debt, more bureaucracy, more imports. So we gotta take it. So that's part also of the academy, which will point to small business luck. You gotta band together, because this is very important to understand. Small business, I want to define companies at less than 300 employees. So they should not be paying a business tax. Okay, and I mentioned that on previous conversation, but I gotta remind people over and over, they should not be paying a business tax. Small business wants to grow, and they rather hire 1 or 2 employees, and the government makes the monies via the wage taxes, right? Okay, so let the money stay in the business. If a businessman takes out the monies, he pays whatever the rate is on that, he's paying that. But they want to leave the money in. They only take out so much what they need for the family. So we gotta encourage them, but most of all, they gotta band together. You know, they gotta take off the red tape.
You know, here's what I'm moved by, Frank, is that as you speak, and I've heard you say these things in various ways in different forums, but you say the same thing consistently because it's not just a message. Frank, this is a movement. And what I really believe about the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship is that it's the facility, it's the platform, it's our community that we've built around your thinking that provides the mechanics and the mindset for tomorrow's needed entrepreneur. What I really do feel like is the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship is just merely the vehicle. But what mission we're really up to is really reimagining Canada's economic future. And what I absolutely love about what you said, Frank, is that for any entrepreneur watching this, big or small, that you're just freshly out of university, college, or high school, and you're looking to start a business, and or you want to start one from scratch, or you're well on your way but need to stabilize and grow, is that this is not about just making money. It's about creating meaning in your business. It's about impact and income. What do you say to that?
Well,
do you agree?
Of course, but we gotta take a look. Why is it that way, right? When
Yes.
we take a look, government. I interfaced with so many politicians, and most of them are great people. Most of them mean well, but like in any profession, some which are not quite that good, whatever. Mm-hmm. But the whole point is the politicians are trapped in a system. They can't move, okay? And younger politicians want to get in, they say, when I get in, I really change Canada, they're going to do XXX. So, but when they sit down with the older politicians say, you can't say that.
Okay. But wait, let me ask you something. I'm going to be really rude and interrupt. Is it because of the politicians or is it the system?
It's the system does not work, right? Okay, so the politicians, they can't say that, otherwise we won't be elected, and the other party will do it worse than we are, right? So they are trapped in a system. So that's why, and I'm referring always as Winston Churchill, the great politician, I would call him a great statesman. He always said, Parliament does not work, because we only have politicians in Parliament. The mandate of a politician is to be elected or re-elected. So he says the country is managed by political reasons. We need a chamber of citizens to balance out the politician. In my case, or in our case, and in the Stronach Academy case is, we say we need small business could be the chamber of citizens, right? Let's give them the free hand. Let's let them operate it on a free enterprise. And without free enterprise, you cannot have a free society. We gotta understand that. And freedom means so much. You know, people died to fight for freedom, right?
Yeah, no,
okay.
it's true. And if I may riff off you, what I love is that Winston Churchill inspiring your ideology around creating a chamber of citizens, which the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship really is. What you've really moved me as the CEO of SAFE is that we're not just teaching, we're not just leading, we're not coaching and mentoring, answering questions, providing the ideal role model of the most epic proportions that Canadian history business has ever seen, by the way. a business you started that runs to this day and still generates in the billions of dollars in revenues a year. Here's what I love the most, is you're going to enable and embolden and empower business owners with a stronger voice and vote through success, making them better businesses, making them better at what they do, so they can not only make their voice heard through vote because their success will set them free, but doing that in the spirit of your vision of creating truly a chamber of citizens. I think that's a noble cause.
Yeah, well, again, small business is the key, is the backbone, right? And naturally, I should not forget family farmers. Family farms and small business are the backbone. And in family farms, it's a business too. It's a small business.
Of course.
So family farms, they should also, because kids of family farms are practically on welfare.
Goodness.
Kids of family farmers say, Mom, Dad, I don't want to be in the farming. I don't want to be on welfare. We got to promote. We got to promote that farming is the most noble thing to do. Farming means feeding people. And a country which could feed its people never had a problem. And Canada could always, with its family farms, could always feed its people, right? Okay. But we have industrial farms now, where we spray so much fungicide and pesticides that we look on industrial farms. You see, no more eagles fly. Why? There's no more rabbits. There's no more pheasants. We spray so much fungicide and pesticides, we kill everything. We got to look at the total scenery. We got to look at the core building blocks, or what's our greatest problem now? Greatest problem now, we're raising youngsters. They all have allergies and stage 2 diabetics. We are grossly negligent to do what we do now. So again, we're not preaching to take away from the rich, right? We're saying we need a revolution, not a destructive revolution, a revolution of the mind. We gotta make things. We gotta make things a little different. And the Academy will show the way, what we should do to make things better, right? Not only for all the Canadians, but for the country itself.
Wow, Frank, I mean, if you just let that, and I know the room is here, the production team's here, like, I mean, that just reeks of passion. I mean, and the gravity, for those who are watching this video, I have to confess, the gravity is clearly heavy. I love that when you say the revolution of the mind, it's precisely what the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship really stands for. It's if we're gonna make small businesses great, yes, the way they deserve to be, economically free, it must start as a revolution of the mind. And as we know, especially in learning, academia, teaching young and old, if you don't start with the mind, the mechanics don't follow.
I'd like to make one more comment.
Of course you can. You own the show.
No, if you're not economically free, you're not a free person. And it's a shame that such a small percentage of Canadians economically free. What do I mean by economically free? What's the minimum standards of being economically free? The minimum standard should be, if a Canadian woman or a Canadian man worked for 30 years, they should have accumulated at least to own their own home or condo, mortgage free, and should have enough cash in the bank, at least $300,000, to subsidize their pension fund, okay? So they can choose their road to happiness in the later years. So, but it's a shame, like at least we could at least, 2/3 of Canadians should be economically free, because a society has a great mixture of people. Some people, some want to work harder, right, or smarter, and some people say, look, I'm happy the way things are, and that's it. Let everybody be. But in the final analysis, right, it's the greatest feeling if you be economically free, right? That's to me, once I reach that point to be economically free, then that's the greatest thing here. And in my case, and the other thing I like to remind people and would recommend it, I think life is, you should have a purpose, especially when you get older, right? When we're younger, we all hustle a bit to make some money so that we can live in dignity. But when we get older and we reach the point that we can live in dignity, then we should focus on a purpose. And the purpose is, what must we do to have a more civilized country, right? What must we do to eliminate poverty? That's really what it boils down to, eliminate poverty.
I'm going to make a comment because I don't think it's fair that I throw a question at you cold, but you've inspired me, so I'll prepare you. So I'll say it as a statement, but it really is a disguised question. I would propose, Frank, my dear friend, that your purpose since the beginning of Magna was always to help people realize their greatest potential. It's why Herman became a co-owner. It's why you built dozens and hundreds of factory owners and operators, where they were with 3 per person. Would you say your purpose has been that and always the same?
No, we go through stages in life. The purpose at the time was, I worked at so many hours, never to accumulate some money is never to be hungry anymore.
Did it ever occur to you that you want to be rich? Was that ever a thought in your mind? Have a wad of cash in your pocket?
My dream was to have enough that I would never have to worry to be hungry again.
You never fantasized?
To feed my family.
You never wanted a Ferrari or a nice fancy watch?
It doesn't really. The main thing is, you want to live as an upright person, right? Not to crawl, not to be economically free, right? Or in that case, what drove me, never to be hungry again, right? Okay, because if you ever have been, and I don't mean hungry because you wanted to lose weight. I mean hungry because you have no money to buy food. If you experiment that, so that's so burned into your soul that's what you want to do, right? That's what drove me.
I love that, and only because I caught you off guard and we're closing off the conversation. But I want to share with you something I found out in my research of my dear friend Frank, our founder of the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, and the whole team is listening in, and that's this, is that when you had the opportunity of your mother coming to Toronto for the very first time, of all people who are a proud son and wants to prove to mother that they did well, it wasn't your home that you wanted to impress her with or any of the other worldly possessions. It was your horse. It was something that you wanted to share with her. Is that true?
Well, but that when my mother came to think, I called it, I made it, right?
Yeah.
I had no more worry. I had money in the bank. I had no more worries to be hungry, and it was that I was so engaged in technologies. I said, look, I need something. I want to connect with nature, right? And so when I leaned back and said, gee, how could I connect best? Then it came, I should have a horse, right? And I looked and I know it was a Saturday morning, I looked in the papers, riding horses for sale. I went to that farm, I bought the first horse I saw. In the afternoon I was already jumping, right? Okay. And it was so, I fell in love with horses then, and because I guess horses provided the best services to Homo sapien, to people, right? Without horses, they plowed the fields, the transportation, and they did it with, no problem. They didn't bite you, kick you, okay?
Yep.
So it's just such a great animal, and we don't do enough, huh? That's our best friend. We don't do enough that we gotta provide a better life for horses, and we should have institutions, we should have places where they call it a farm where they breed some horses so kids could come. It shouldn't be far away from the cities, so kids could come with their parents and look at the foals, look at the horses. It's just such a majestic, beautiful animals, but most of all, it's done an enormous service to mankind.
I love that. Frank, in closing, I've got a couple things to say for housekeeping, but you truly are a man that's living his purpose, but also respecting his passions. And horses is one of those passions, and I want to just acknowledge you for that. So lovely to always see you always practicing both, living your purpose, respecting your passions. Now, for the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, what I'm really tremendously pleased to announce is that we are offering a 3-month trial period. It's absolutely free. It starts September 1st. And although it's sort of going to be treated like a 1-year curricula, like it's got a learning path of sorts,
yes,
you can join and drop out and come back at any time. But the reality is that we have something very exciting. This 3-month trial is for people to really get a sense of this conversation, to get a real sense of the community and its culture, its stand, the movement, the mechanics behind it, the mind behind it, the purpose that's powering it, and the people in it. So we want to make sure that for those who are watching, that this 3-month trial has been possible because you said so, yes?
Well, I guess I'm not so sharp anymore as I was, right?
You're pretty sharp.
Yes, I feel thing here, but it would have never slipped me before, right? I mean, when I sat back a bit, gee, I created an academy now. Like people have to pay right away, so I said, look, I mean, I've always been driven a better way of doing things, right? And the better way is, if you be sure, try my product, right? Try it, see if it's useful, see if it's thing here, right? Then you'll be happy, right? Okay, so we had some customer. We're gonna give their monies back, and but we hope that they will join again after trying the academy for 3 months, right? And so we have nothing to hide. We want to provide value, and I have no agenda, right? My thing is to serve the country. Okay, I have everything. My family's got everything. I don't need anything. I have a certain age. I just want to serve the country and say this is very important. Okay.
Well, I'll turn to the camera to say this to you, our fellow friends, our followers, our fans. We're grateful that you joined the conversation, but it's never enough. It's never enough just to listen to the conversation. You've got to join the conversation. So at the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, you have our invitation and a promise that if you take on the 3-month trial, there is no obligation to join or pay. We want you to learn that the conversation's here for you. We want you to know that this movement is about you and your future and your children's future. We want you to know that a great Canadian economy that works for you must be one that works for all. But to do that, we must do it together. So if there's anything else you want to say, Frank, before we leave, has there been something else on your mind you want to make sure we cover?
The great thing about you is you're very attentive, and you fill out the missing links, and I think we pretty well covered everything.
Amazing. See, I got myself an A+ grade by Frank Stronach himself. My friend, Frank Stronach.
Okay.
Until next time, friends, thank you so much for checking in with us. If you want to learn more about the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, please don't wait, don't delay, and don't dilly-daddle. Get to the link below. Reach out to us. Even if you got a question or you have an insight you want to share, we would love to hear from you. We're not here selling you. We're here standing for you. Until next time, we'll be again with our dear friend, Frank Stronach.